There are two signs that are projecting out away from the actual front of the building. Those don't have to be in perspective, so they're just flat shapes. Closer to the vanishing point, there are a couple of openings. They look kind of like garage door openings, so that's why I drew a line out there to represent that area. Then, of course, I'm using vertical lines to subdivide it into 3 sections, and I want those sections to get closer together, smaller, as we go back towards that single vanishing point. For the moment, we're going to leave the right side of the street alone, and now we're going to move to the left side and try getting those buildings in place. We're going to start off simply at first, and then we're going to detail them out as we go. So I'm just doing tick marks to check the height of things. There's that vertical axis to represent that corner of one of those buildings back there. So I'm going to the vanishing point, and I'm going to the top of that vertical line that I just drew. And getting that, it's actually the second building from the left. So one side goes to the vanishing point. The other side is going to be a horizontal line. And then I'm getting that building that's going off page, so that's actually the first building there to the left, by just going to the vanishing point. You do want to pay attention to the height of the building, so you want to make sure that you get the height accurate. And because we're doing a series of buildings, the relationship of one height of one building to another is important too. That third building that we're putting in is rather complicated. I'm going to simplify it down, but I'm still going to add in that balcony layer. So it's almost like a layer cake, except for it's rectangular layers. And this is done through a series of vertical and horizontal lines. And then at the corner there, it would have to go to that vanishing point, which is why you see me pivot on that vanishing point. Make sure that if you have a line that is angling back, converging at that point, that you place your ruler on that vanishing point and don't let it slip. If this step is too complicated, you are welcome to keep it as a simple block. So it's just a rectangular block instead of having that double layer to it. If you look at the actual building, it's much more complicated than that. And it's got a lot of complicated architectural features too, not just in the building itself, but also like the windows too. There are some windows that are rectangular, and then there are some that have arches. We'll get to windows later. That fourth building in is going to be a little bit shorter than the other buildings. And again, you start it the same way. That was a horizontal line first, followed by a vertical. And then I'm attaching that vertical to the vanishing point. You're going to see me do this time and again in this drawing where I don't actually draw the line all the way back to the vanishing point. And I'm doing that deliberately because I know I won't need to draw the line all the way there, and I'm saving myself the trouble of having to erase it later. So I only make my converging line, that line that's angling to the vanishing point, as long as I think it'll need to be, maybe just a little bit of extra. And this is the last building at the end of the block here. So this is a basic way of laying out each building. They don't exactly look like the buildings 100% yet, but we are going to be working on adjusting them and getting detail in the next phase. I've zoomed in on that area that is more towards the left side of the drawing because we're going to be drawing some trees. And trees are fun because you get to freehand them. It's one element that is not man-made. It's something that's found in nature. So these are free-form organic shapes. I'm going to go ahead and give those a little bit of value so that I can tell that they're darker than other things. I'm also going to go to that building where there's a nice dramatic cast shadow and put that in too while I'm at it. We're going to start with windows, and I'm going from the farthest out building and working my way in. and we're still working on that left-hand side. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm trying to define the spacing in between the windows. That's why I'm going to the edge of the frame there. I'm trying to evenly space those windows apart. And those windows are going to first start out looking like stripes. So I'm going to connect that line to the vanishing point on all of those windows that are there. The building's front, where the doors are at, there's like multiple lines there to show like the beams above the doors. So that's what I'm getting right there. These windows are going to operate similar to some of the signage that we did on the right side of the street. So they work kind of also like a ladder or similar to railroad tracks, only they're going to be vertical lines to separate each window out. Each window has to get progressively smaller as it goes towards the vanishing point, so it shouldn't be a row of equal ones. There's often a double line like you're seeing there because there's a gap in between each window. They're not perfectly aligned. So take your time with this. Make sure that it is a true vertical that you're getting there. I'm going to go in and further describe those window panes. So that it should look kind of like a plus sign within each one. So I'm going to have to go to the vanishing point to do that. Draw a line going to the vanishing point, and then divide again using a vertical line. I know this sounds complicated. You could do windows as a simple stripe or as a simplified window pane. I've done that at times. I like to do that for windows that are farther back because it doesn't matter so much. You can simplify objects that are going away from you and shouldn't have so much detail anyway. But objects that are closer, you might want to spend a little bit more time on. Just a bit of value there, just so I can make sure I can separate out the windows from the actual like exterior of the building itself. And then I am going to go in and detail that building front. So it's a similar process for, there's like some design elements to it that I'm going to get in. You just have to look at your reference too and let that be your guide. There's an awning right there, and it's kind of a zigzag awning. And then there are some more windows going down. Now we're going to move on to the next building. That next building has a series of windows, so I'm just going to make a little dash going down, almost like stitching there. And I want to make each dash equal distance, and I'm going to be connecting that vertical dash to the vanishing point to make stripes that go across the building. And again, I'm pivoting on that vanishing point. You always want to make sure that your ruler or your straight edge is lined up exactly on that vanishing point, or it will be incorrect. So those dashes help me to get the spacing correct. So I visually made sure that they were as close to equal distance apart as I could get them. The good news is there are no windows on that second side of that building. And again, I'm using a vertical line to divide up those windows. As those windows get closer to the vanishing point, they should be getting skinnier and skinnier closer together. So it's a process. Once you learn how to do this, there's a pattern to it that you just pick up on, and you can do this without having to think about it. You can just do it more intuitively. Some of you may already be there. Okay, so I did work on the top part of that third building, so it's going to the top of the page. I think you can do this without my help. It's just like putting a floating block on top, essentially. And now I'm going to go to this side and do windows. The great thing about this side of the building is it is not technically in perspective, so you can draw them like regular equal distance stripes or regular rectangles. Nothing is angling back to that vanishing point. We're going to go ahead and stop here for now.